Going live. Hello, people. Hello, people. Welcome. Let me just get this started on my end here so I can see your comments. Hello, entire Iron Fist. Hello, guys. So, the usual plan is to, or at least the plan like last time, is to keep it to no more than an hour and a half. So I don't get complaints about people saying the video is too long, but at least I need to give time for people to ask questions, and if there are questions, we'll go stretch it out to an hour and a half. So hello AMG, hello. So and if you would at any moment hit that like button there before you forget. If you're gonna like it, if you don't intend to like it, then hit the dislike. That's fine too. Whatever you feel like doing. How are you doing, people? How are you doing, my friend? This week I released a video. Uh, the video was titled "Stark Choices Phones in 2020." Hello, Madeleine Bowden. Hello there, and Dark Sins Navarro. So the last couple days I really actually it's only been I only released it yesterday. Okay, the video was from yesterday, and I did not even put in the title what it was actually all about. I just said stark choices, and that video is now my number one video. So it has the most views ever in the beginning. So I've gotten 4,500 views in just a day and a half. So it's incredible. So day and a half, and we're already at 4,500 views. So it's been a high performer. But the interesting thing about the video is what it talks about, and it actually is kind of a subtle discussion of contact tracing, which I'm blatantly putting in the title here. And the reason I have to be careful about these kinds of titles is because anything related to the pandemic is something that YouTube might censor. So I'm concerned about that. And the last time I put out a title that specifically mentioned the name of the infection, then suddenly YouTube stopped sharing it. So this was a test, and it was a kind of a incredible reaction, and I was actually shocked at the number of people that actually reacted to the video, and that was very very positive. Now, but without having to be vague about it in this live stream, the video was about contact tracing and what the effects of that is. So that's what I'm going to talk about now, and you can ask questions about it. Hello, APR 613 Napero, Magic Rat, Zork, Freelance Expert, Brent. Hello, Brent. Faraz, Strife is Justice, Locutos, and Mick Chahal. Okay, so welcome, guys, welcome. And like I said, if you feel like hitting the like button on the video, please do so. I would appreciate it. That's really helpful to the channel, and I appreciate your support. And again, I thank you again today. Thank you to all the supporters on Patreon. That the supporters list is growing. This is something that I really haven't followed up on before, but it's really important for this channel to survive. I mean, we're not going to get rich from doing videos. Unfortunately, it's a hard slog to do this, even though I do this full time. And so your help is important to support the channel and what we do here to spread the word about privacy. But suddenly, guys, privacy is suddenly, important to everyone now just because they started thinking about contact tracing. So contact tracing is actually bringing up interest in my topic, and people are now asking, really, they can do that, and they do want to do that. And let me just tell you that Apple and Google just released in May, released new versions of the OS from iOS to some new version of GApps, Google Apps, that has integrated contact tracing into it. So, and I explained in the video how the contact tracing works. And one of the things that I said on the video is that, yes, analyzing what I know about how they've done it, at least the Bluetooth part of it is not where the privacy threat is, and that's what the video said. The collection of Bluetooth information in itself is not a concern. The question is, what happens when you actually admit to a diagnosis? And this is the part that no one on the internet has actually spoken about. And my take on it is, I'm sure, very different from anyone else's. And hello, Huge D, bite. What does Huge D bite have to say today? Burning by ignorant sheep. So, Huge D bite, did you download, since you like Android so much, did you download your contact tracing code? Did you do that? Thank you for alerting me to the iPhone update 13.5 that allows for contact tracing. I made sure not to install that update. Well, they will force you. Galvano, I left you a question last time. You didn't answer me. I couldn't force the notification on Braxme using that series of numeric entries that you said. So I want to make sure I got that right. So is it costing us more battery life? It will definitely. It will cost you more battery life. What the new change is it turns your Bluetooth in what I call hyperactive mode. You did. Where did you make the comment, Galvano? It's going to be a hard thing to search for that, I guess. So if you can tell me on Braxme what it is, I'd really appreciate it, because it's hard to find anything on YouTube if it's not a current comment. Can Google tracking be helpful in certain situations? Google's already tracking you, so it's too late to ask that question. They think I'm like 404 people over the world. They think I'm like 404 people. Why 404? Why did you choose 404, Huge D-Byte? Why did you match it exactly to the error code? So, and no, you're not going to be able to escape and say, oh, I'm one of 404 people all over the world. If you're going to do contact tracing, if you understand how that works, that has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with your location, because there's no location to Bluetooth, so you will really get contact traced. Okay, yes, I'm on Brax. I'll write you there. Thanks. It's finally time to shut off our internets and invest in typewriters. Louisiana State Legislature has a bill addressing contact tracing. Yusuf Ibrahim, Egypt. Do you think it's worth to lose some security for protecting my privacy? I mean, if I lose a Pine phone or Librem 5, can someone extract the data? Is it worth it? I don't put data on my phone, so there you go. You got to have the attitude where you don't put data on it. So a lot of people take their naked pictures and put it on a phone, and that to me is just so sucking stupid. So get yourself a dedicated camera if you're going to take naked pictures of yourself, and don't put it on your zucking phone. People actually buy expensive iPhones, not because the iPhone is offering you any special thing about phones, nor on any operation of any app. The only reason you're supposed to be getting an iPhone now is that the camera's supposed to be better. Well, zuck that. There are better cameras out there than a zucking iPhone. I don't have to spend $1,400 on a zucking iPhone just to take photos. Do like PDF books count as data? No. Hello, Siamo Beats. Thank you for binging on my channel. Okay, so because people are thinking about contact tracing, suddenly they're all concerned and thinking, what exactly, did this mean for our privacy? And people are starting to ask for the first time. Here's something I just want to note something, a snippet here from Security Now. I don't know if you know the channel Security Now. It's Leo Laporte and Steve Gibson, which I subscribe to. And they actually had an episode yesterday, I believe, where they actually said COVID-19 tracing apps, contact tracing apps will not work. And that was the title of the video. And they only dedicated like 10 minutes of it at the end of the hour and a half, or hour and 45 minutes. And it's only 10 minutes of it. And they didn't really say much, but I'm going to summarize it for you. I'm going to summarize what they say, because it's interesting where we are. What they said is that COVID-19 contact tracing apps will not work because, according to studies, the 80% of the population have to be using it in order for it to give good data for actual contact tracing. 80% of all phones have to use the contact tracing apps. So, and their statement was that they don't think that 80% of the people will use the app. Well, I agree with that. I don't even think 40% will use the app, but that was the initial number that I heard was 40%, and now somebody's saying some studies are saying you need to have 80%. Well, then there's no fucking chance. How do you get 80% of the people to use the app? I mean, for example, no one here is going to be using any contact tracing app. I'm not going to use that. Are you going to use contact tracing app? Anyone here? Let's just do a survey. Anyone here going to use contact tracing apps? Okay. Anyone here going to use contact tracing apps? If you are, type a 1 if you're going to use contact tracing apps. Type a 2 if you're not going to use contact tracing apps. Let's just do a count. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Action Potato is using the app. Okay, the majority so far is no. Got 1. That's it. Only 1 is 1. How come it keeps repeating? Everyone else says no. I'll push the contact tracing apps. To reach 80%, so I don't have to. Zuck, no. So only Action Potato is going to use the app. Well, they've already lost the battle. Well, of course, everyone here in this channel is concerned about privacy. Riots. I've already been through the LA riots fake name. I don't need any, riots in here. I've already gone through that. LA riots, Rodney King. We've been through that. I lived through that. That was a very bad time here in LA. So, Mama kids, if I put my phone in a Faraday cage when I'm around people, will that stop the tracing while it's in the Faraday cage? Yes. Or you can just turn the phone off. I mean, why you waste battery? If you're going to put it in a Faraday bag, might as well just turn it off. I think we figured out riots are dumb. If mainstream media says to, I will. I guess potatoes doesn't have much action in life. Sandra Abarca is going to use contact tracing app. You have 556. What is 556? I don't even know how many. My broadcast here is not showing the. It's not showing the count of concurrent users or likes, so I don't actually know. Hello, Andrew. Thank you. I don't actually know how many people are hitting like or subscribe. I see 86 on here. There we go, 91. Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you, Andrew. Thank you I'll be back in 45 minutes. Watch to work. Take the battery out. Sandra says no. Okay, so now you say no. Okay, yes to Faraday. Yes to Faraday stuff. Oh, okay, okay, I get it. We were talking about different things. So anyway, back to what Security Now was saying. 80%. They said 80% are needed to have this work, and because 80% are not going to do it, then it's not going to work. That's the main comment. The secondary comment, guys, is that it doesn't do enough. This is from Security Now. It doesn't do enough that in order for it to actually work, you have to give your location. This is what Security Now said. They said in order for it to work, we need to give up our privacy. So he's saying that Apple and Google, Steve Gibson said Apple and Google didn't go far enough, that if they actually want it to work, then they have to give location. And I already told you the answer to this. And for the supposed experts in Security Now, they're security experts, and it boggles the mind that I have to say this, but we already know that Apple and Google already know your locations. In fact, they showed a little picture showing the people on the beach in Florida not doing social distancing. They already have the sucking data. I've already been telling you that. I don't know how many times I have to tell you that they already have the data on what locations you're in. It's too late now. If you're going around saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so afraid that they're going to do location tracking with contact tracing," no. Contact tracing has no location. Supposed to give all these numbers, random numbers for matching Bluetooth, but it doesn't do anything according to Security Now until you give location. Well, they already have the location, so we are already zucked. The only reason they're not telling you they have your location is because politically it sounds bad. It's like they're lying to you. Oh, we already have your location, but we're not going to tell you. Even though you can easily check on your sucking iPhone, find my sucking phone. How much effort does it take to look at your sucking iPhone and know they have your location every moment? It's on Find My Phone. Goodness. There's no guesswork necessary. I don't have to guess this. It's already on your phone. Find My Phone. Starlight, go look at your phone and see if you have. Do you have Find My Phone on your phone, Starlight? Of course you do, because you have an iPhone. Okay? And of course it exists on Google as well, on Android. So yes, Find My Phone is always in action. You cannot turn off Find My Phone. When you turn off Find My Phone, what you're actually doing is saying, I don't want to see my location. I know you're tracking it, Google, Apple, but if I deselect Find My Phone in settings, I'm actually saying, I know you have it, but I don't want to see it. It's crazy. So you're being lied to. So suppose that Apple privacy phone, it's of course tracking your location. That's how they collect the data on Wi-Fi routers. So they can't stop that. It's commercially necessary for them to track every single router. If you put a new router in your house, somebody's going to walk by and get the MAC address of that router, and they can store the GPS location of that router, put it on their servers. They're not going to give that up. So every Android and iOS phone does that all day. All day, that's all it does. Collect that information. So if you think that somehow contact tracing is going to add some piece of data that they didn't have before, you're actually wrong as far as locations and all that. They already have that. So in a bit, it's too late. So what exactly is the fear about contact tracing if they already have the information that I just said with locations and your identity? Your exact identity is on your phone. It's called a device fingerprint. Two elements in a phone that you have to worry about: the device fingerprint and the constant location tracking of by Apple and Google only, and it's called Wi-Fi scanning. And it only exists on Apple and a Google Apps phone. It doesn't exist on a Google phone. It doesn't exist on a Linux phone. It doesn't exist on I'm going to guess it doesn't exist on KaiOS, but other things may be on KaiOS. So I can't tell you much more than that. But it doesn't exist on Blackberries. It doesn't exist on feature phones. So Wi-Fi scanning is the specific task given by Apple and Google to your phones to collect the MAC addresses and locations of every router in the world, which is used to build the Wi-Fi triangulation database. Any news on the community edition of the Pine phone? Well, didn't you order one? They're already shipping those. The community editions are being shipped and probably are arriving already. Big plus for BlackBerry? Not really. I'd rather use the Google phone than a BlackBerry, because a newer BlackBerry is actually Android, but it's an old Android with browsers that are not up to date, so you can't even use a lot of stuff because the browser doesn't have certificates. No one is updating them. Harshwardhan Singh Rathore: was Windows Phone more secure than Android and Apple? Secure in what way? It doesn't have the code that I'm talking about. Yes. So in that way, I guess it is. As far as what else is on it, I don't really know, since I've never had a Windows phone. The one Windows game I like now works on Linux through Wine. Game over. I got my Pinebook Pro, but not my phone yet. I couldn't order a Pinebook Pro. They didn't have a US keyboard. They would never admit the vast treasure trove of info they already have. That is correct. You like your BB10. BB10 is Android. So it's not 100% Magic Rat. It's Android. Is that Google Pixel phones? What do you mean? What are you referring to? Can you de-Amazon it? Anyway, back to what I was saying. So security now says, Steve Gibson says, that the only way that this can work is for us to take it beyond what Apple and Google have done, which is to track locations. This is to be done by a state, to actually not just prompt you for who you've been in contact with, but to actually indicate there where you are and what the location was when it happened. And so the only way for contact tracing, according to him, to work is to basically give up on your privacy even more, even though they have already taken that information, and it's just the fact that Apple and Google don't want to share it. Now, the actual risk, guys, the actual risk to contact tracing is when you give out a diagnosis. And again, understand what I'm saying here. If you actually get COVID-19 and you actually go to the app and say, I have COVID-19, there's nothing secret about that. How do you zucking hide that from Apple and Google? You put in their app, hey, I got it. I'm infected. How the fuck do you hide that? What little secrets are they going to do? What are all these secret numbers, secret random numbers with Bluetooth? Bluetooth has nothing to do with it. When you say that you are infected, you're telling Apple and Google you're infected, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's just it. So all of this kind of stupid stuff explaining how, we're going to keep your Bluetooth ID, MAC address, all that's going to be a secret. We're not going to worry about that. But when you say that you are infected, you have to admit it, and they have your device fingerprint. They know exactly who you are. You can't hide your phone ID. You got your Google ID, your Apple ID, and you're going to upload and say, I'm infected. How are you supposed to hide that? So now once you say you're infected, they don't even need, guys, this is the stupid thing about this. Once they know you're infected, they don't even need to pay attention to the zucking Bluetooth. What is the Bluetooth for? It's all political. They already have their locations. So based just on the fact that you submitted a diagnosis, they can already go to their location databases and say, okay, based on this, then we know that we need to alert X number of people about possible contact. Or we'll just flag you as a possible infected person just because we know that A is infected, therefore B, C, D, and E are potentially affected, and flag you on your phone. Maybe we'll put a little tag on there in secret so that we know to avoid you. I mean, just the crazy stuff where this, what could this lead to? And it's not really about the Bluetooth. It's about saying, I admit to being infected. So even though, people around you may not be participating in this so-called voluntary contact tracing app, they don't have to. If Apple and Google know who's infected, they can just go into their database and say, this person was in contact with all of this based on our location data. Yeah, and they can sell to insurance companies, and you can't imagine how much stuff they actually gift insurance companies. So I don't know. That's the problem with this. Is where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line when you actually deal with something like contact tracing? Where do you draw the line and say, you know what? We don't need this. So, where do you say I mean, you could actually just say, let's just have a social site where everyone goes to and just register all the places they've been to and say, yeah, I was here at this location willingly, and just give it, put it there without any identity, and let you put it on there willingly. And, not from any automated database tracking location, but just, saying I was at X. And if you're around this, then you may want to self-quarantine. Because do you really need to do, if you just know that someone may have been infected, at least you can take some action to self-quarantine. So I don't know what they're trying to do by saying, okay, we're going to do a contact tracing app that says for sure that you got something. But these apps can't actually tell if there's a wall. So you could be in two separate rooms, and you could be within 6 feet because your desks are next to the wall, and yet you're separated by a wall. So you can't get infected through the wall. But these apps can't tell you that. I don't know, guys. I'm just going to stay 6 feet away. I don't need to go contact tracing. There's just, first of all, whatever they add to your phone, they're never going to take out. And I'm going to assure you right now that a year from now, contact tracing with Bluetooth and all that, and the ability to take your diagnosis will still be on your phone. Ask me again a year from now, and you will find that this is going to be an excuse now to say, well, we found that it's not enough to track you with Bluetooth. We actually want to know your actual location and your real name. And it's just going to go on, and they already have this data, and this is what I fear. They already have this data. So in theory, instead of them saying, okay, we'll go ask you to volunteer, and because we did not get 80% of the people to use the app, we're now just going to force you, since the phones themselves do Wi-Fi scanning, and we already know where you have been in contact with people. Why don't we just force it down on you by sending the zucking data to the zucking government? To send a database of all interactions of all people with phones and send them to the government. And then with your real name, because you have a Google ID. And then once a ICD-10 code goes into the government system, You know how you get your diagnosis. If you go to the doctor's office, the doctor has to put in an ICD-10 code on their little computer and put J12.89 or whatever it is, and put the diagnosis on the computer, and which will then be attached to your actual name, be sent to your insurance company as well. Your insurance company will know that you've had an infection, and then that will then be sent to the government pretty much immediately. And if the government had the location data, they could just, automatically flag you and say, well, we don't want to, since you didn't volunteer, we're going to just force you and tell you that you need to be quarantined, and you're going to be picked up by the Zucking bus. I don't know. At what level does this end? I'm actually kind of concerned that since they already have the data, there's actually more stuff they can do. This is why the solution is to not have a phone with Wi-Fi scanning. Do not have a phone with Wi-Fi scanning. I, Zucking, refuse to carry a phone with Wi-Fi scanning. As you all know, I carry a a Moto G7 Play here, and this is de-googled. There is no Zucking Wi-Fi scanning here, none. So I'm just not participating. So the live froze. It's not frozen right now. Is it still frozen? Can you hear the sound though? I mean, it's not, I'm transmitting. There's no, there is no issue on the transmission. And can you hear the sound though? Wow. Okay. There's actually no issue here. I can see your comments, and if you can hear the sound, I can actually see everything here. And oh, I see. It's actually even frozen on my screen here. Okay, let me just hold on. Let me just restart this. Okay, I'm gonna be gone for a couple seconds. Hold on. What happened here? The hello. Okay, there we go. Okay, so OBS froze. So okay, so we're back. We're back. Sound should be back. Okay, there we go. There we go. So actually back. Sorry about that. OBS was frozen. The audio was running, but the video froze in OBS. So anyway, back to what I was saying. If you don't want to participate, the only way to actually not participate, because the problem is they're going to force it on your operating systems, and you're not going to be able to refuse. You can refuse right now, 13.5 on iOS. is out and you're going to refuse it, let's say, and they'll force you. They'll say, well, there's some security update and you got to use 13.5 or you're not going to be able to do X, Y, or Z or get a security update. So they're going to force you at some point to update from whatever 13.4, whatever you're using on iOS, and they're going to force you to 13.5. And then you're zocked. And if you're on Google, same thing. And it's an auto update, so you're not even going to get much of a choice. So the only solution is to actually not. There's two things about my approach that is different. I told you there are actually two kind of risks. You know, the one is Wi-Fi scanning means every location that you're in is stored at the Google and Apple database, part of Wi-Fi scanning. And again, this is not something exposed to any third party. This is something that is stored only in the Google and Apple database. So if you don't have Wi-Fi scanning, then you don't participate in that. And Wi-Fi scanning exists on an iPhone. You can't turn it off, so you're kind of zucked there if you have an iPhone. So if you have an iPhone, somebody actually got mad at me about my comments about an iPhone because they're just, such fanboys. And yes, I have a ton of Apple devices. I have Macs and I got everything here. And I got iPhones, iPads, and I'm using an iPad right now that, does not have, it's only Wi-Fi and it doesn't leave my house. But I'm not stupid. I thought about it, as nice as the iPhone devices are and the iOS devices are, the reality is I cannot turn off Wi-Fi scanning on any device with a GPS. The iPad does not do Wi-Fi scanning. It can only do Wi-Fi triangulation. Wi-Fi scanning does not exist on a device without a GPS. So you don't worry about your Macs. I'm not telling you to dump your zucking Macs. You can keep your zucking MacBook Pros and MacBooks and MacBook Airs and your iMacs and whatever, because that does not have a GPS. Your iPhones have a GPS. Okay, so unless you're an iPhone 1, you're zucked. So that's doing Wi-Fi scanning except for iPhone 1. So now what do we do? What do we do now? So by not having Wi-Fi scanning, then I don't participate in that. This phone doesn't not have a way of sending that kind of data to Apple or Google. You can't go in there, by the way. Some of you said, can I go open up my computer and, destroy the GPS chip and the Wi-Fi chip and whatever? You can't. These chips are now made to be miniaturized. It's called System on a Chip, SoC, and they're no longer in clear modules where you can actually see a chip and unplug it. You can't do that anymore. So it's to be honest with you, if you want to, you might as well participate in contact tracing if you have an iOS device, because there's no way out of it. If somebody said, can I use an iPod or an iPad? If it doesn't have the GPS, it doesn't have Wi-Fi scanning. Now, there's other tracking that's happening on there, but at least you're not participating in Wi-Fi scanning, which is the main big one. Okay? So, again, to make it clear, any device without a GPS cannot do Wi-Fi scanning, because the purpose of Wi-Fi scanning is to get the GPS locations of routers, and they can't do that if it doesn't have a GPS. So some iPads have a GPS, some don't. Some Android, some Samsung Galaxies tablets have GPS and some don't. So there you go. Just you make a decision based on knowing that. Now, the second aspect of a phone that we worry about is once they get your location, what do they attach the location to? And that is the device ID. So on most of your devices, you have a Google ID or an Apple ID. Well, this phone does not have an identity. I have never logged into this phone. There's no identity attached to it. So even if Google had something, it doesn't have Wi-Fi scanning, so it can't track location. It also can't identify me because there's no name to it. I've never logged into it. So when you buy a phone from me, for example, or you do it yourself, you never log into a Google phone. There's no login ever at the operating system level. So there's no way for it to do anything. So even if they put contact tracing apps somewhere and loaded it into Android for whatever reason, Android open source, which it's not, but let's say it got loaded on there, because if it's on open source, you can take it out. Okay? That's the nice thing about it. If they loaded the contact tracing data on the app, the Android open source, I'm going to go into the source code and delete it. So not worried about that. It's open source. It's not on there. But if they added it, I'll delete it and then compile it again and end of story. What about if you had a phone with Google and then de-Google it? That's okay. That'll work. The phone disappears. It's like you sold it. Will the phone attract suspicion, or does it look like a normal phone? It looks in. What is it? Is there anything suspicious about this? What do you mean suspicious? What is suspicious about this? It's running Android. What is suspicious about the phone? There. Running Android apps. And who cares? Who is being suspicious? Is somebody inspecting your phone? Is there like a Android police and they're like saying, we need to inspect your phone right now. We want to see if you have Google on there, because if you don't have Google, we'll take you to jail. Battery life is zucking doubled. Zuck, doubled. Why is the battery life doubled on a de-Googled phone? Why is it doubled? Doesn't that even like put question marks in your head? Question mark. Yes, no GPS chip, King Sing. But it still has your identity. There's the problem, King Sing. An iPod has an identity, device fingerprint, but no Wi-Fi scanning. So there's partial information. These devices have none of either one. There's no device fingerprint and there's no location. So you can do anything on these. You can use Waze. You can do anything. Because without Wi-Fi scanning, you have to give permission for location. Okay, let me just make that clear. Wi-Fi scanning means getting your location without permission. Wi-Fi scanning gets your location without permission. Other than that, you have to get location using something called Wi-Fi triangulation. That exists on this phone. This has Wi-Fi triangulation. The iPad that I'm using over here has Wi-Fi triangulation. Wi-Fi triangulation can spot your location, but people, listen, it requires permission. It requires permission. So if you use Waze on this phone, Waze isn't going to work without location. So you have to give it permission. So while you're using Waze, you can give it permission. When you're not using Waze, you can take out the permission. You see how much control you have? You can still use location. It's just not 100%. For example, if I wanted to use my phone as, I'm a sailor, and I want to go use my phone as a chart plotter, meaning I want to map out my GPS waypoints and all that on my phone and use it as a GPS on my boat so that I don't get lost in the fog, let's say. I want to know if I can use my phone with location tracking on the phone. Can you do that on a Google phone? The answer is yes. Of course, the answer is yes, you can do that. Okay, so back to what I'm saying. So sorry, just had to take some action there. So when you use a phone with no Wi-Fi scanning, it doesn't mean that you don't have location. You still have location. You still can use location. The only thing is that it has to be by permission. So everything is permissioned. No secret app is going to do it in the background. And by the way, I don't trust Waze in the background. I will always turn off Waze location when I'm not using it. I'm going to use it only when I need to use it. Turn it on, and otherwise I turn it off. And then I don't have to worry about it. In fact, you should use NetGuard. So I use NetGuard to guard certain apps. For example, Yelp. Yelp works in the background sending location. Turn that sucker off with NetGuard and block it. When you're not using the app, it shouldn't be sending anything. When Waze isn't being used, it shouldn't be sending anything. And it does. That's why I use NetGuard. So anyway, a phone without Wi-Fi scanning and device fingerprinting, so no identity, what can they really know about you on the phone? Well, now it's on an app-by-app basis because, of course, some apps you log into. I don't log into Waze. So if you log into an app, well, that app has your identity, obviously, because you logged in. And it's up to you then to safeguard your identity on each app. It doesn't matter, for example, to a bank. To a bank, they need your real identity or they're not going to give you your money. So I understand that. That's fine. But the bank app isn't going to share the information with other apps, because that's one of the things about apps is that they actually work in a virtual machine space. They work in an isolated space on Android. So a bank app doesn't actually have any way of reading data from another app unless you do something intentional to share it. And you're not going to give it that permission. So a bank app isn't going to share your identity to the other app. So it's actually pretty isolated. So it doesn't matter that you use any app on these phones. It's fine. Believe me, the two dangers that I just mentioned to you, Wi-Fi scanning and device fingerprinting, I mean, that alone is so significant. The only thing that you really need to worry about is the IP address. NetGuard is free. No root firewall versus NetGuard. The only thing with NetGuard is it uses the same network port as a VPN. So you can't use a NetGuard and a VPN. So when you're using the VPN, you have to turn off NetGuard or vice versa. Hello, Miss Mount Fuji. Sarab, yes, I did for many days, but most rely on location services provided by Google. You can do that. You can use location services as long as you give permission when you want to have it used. So you can. It's not, sometimes you need location. So turn it off only when you need to use it. Is the app Wave? Is your Moto G7 with micro G? Yes, Moto G7. All of my phones have micro G. Hello, Just Ed. What's your feelings on Ipvanish? I don't have any feelings on Ipvanish. Don't ever mention that here. In a nice way, Madeline. Banking app issues. I don't know. You got to test every banking app, but I would imagine that most banking apps will work. Most. And if the bank app doesn't work, then you may want to think about changing banks. Waze, yes. Oh, you're talking about Wave. No, Waze. I can't believe nobody knows what Waze is. Even paid once. Waze, Waze, zebra. No such thing as a free Waze app. Yes, it's for driving around a city. It's one of the reasons that it's very hard to sell a phone without Waze is because here in LA, you need something that updates with traffic. How about the lockdown firewall app? I don't know. Firewalls are firewalls. If you don't like one firewall, use another. What's the difference? What hardware manufacturers, if any, doesn't spy or have backdoors? All phones in America have Qualcomm. All phones in the rest of the world have MediaTek. They all spy on you in some way, but in a different way. Again, let's just say this is a. Now, I'm not fond of Huawei, so this is not something. This is not a pro Huawei comment, but let's just say this is a Huawei. Even though let's say they put some spyware on the OEM of directories of, because there's an OEM folder on the phone where they can put their own code. They can put anything, and they put some sort of sensing thing in there. What can they actually do? Well, I mean, to be really bad about it, I mean, they could control the camera, control the GPS, and send that independently of the OS. So there are things you can do to the phone that's independent of the OS. However, even if you manage to put spyware on any phone, on any one of these phones that any one of these companies sell, the actual problem is that there's no identity except that coming from the OS. So it's just a random phone. So, the identity is actually very important. Knowing that, billions of random people have data doesn't necessarily amount to much unless if they don't get a device fingerprint. So the data collected by Google is 100 times more important than the data that can be collected by an OEM, because it's kind of limited what they can do. But they could do, nasty things. Like I said, like turn on your camera and mic. They could trigger your phone to turn on and do things like they can do with SS7 and silent texting, which is actually on the Qualcomm and MediaTek chip. They could actually do that. And it is in there, and it's on every phone. So that is the fear. But that's another issue. That's kind of separate from what we're talking about with the data collection of Apple and Google. My phone is my dingy GPS. It's Waze app safe to use. The app doesn't have. If you use the app without logging in, then it's going to be limited. Are you only on YouTube tonight? TR Fun Guy, yes, I only do YouTube. TR Fun Guy, I the last time I broadcasted on Periscope, I had one viewer. One. So, yeah, that was no fun to have one person on there. My ISP gave me a Huawei router. Now, routers are a different issue, but what is funny is that Huawei routers supposedly have spyware. I don't know if they do or not, but this is a reality. Cisco routers were given spyware by the NSA. So they actually put spyware, or was it CIA? I don't know. One of those. They actually put spyware in Cisco routers. So, I mean, it's funny, when the U.S. government says, "Oh, Kaspersky is spying and Huawei is spying," but the U.S. is spying too. So it's actually just assume that everyone is spying on you, and let's stick to open source. At some point, it would be nice when the Linux phones actually graduate to college level, and where we can actually do many more things with a Linux phone, and we don't have to worry about this BS with some of these other OSs. We really need to get away from these oligopolies with Apple and Google and what they can do, because it just exposes that. Let's have all open source hardware in the future. Open source. So that's the only way we can protect ourselves. Okay, let me just I don't know what an Exynos chip is. Uh, uh, Charles Miller, yeah, they're all bad. The problem is they're all bad. Okay, is your antivirus spying on you? Spying on you? I bet you it is. So which one, would you like to have a antivirus spy on you? I don't load any antivirus because I don't want them to spy on me. Yes, Thrill Seeker. How good is Ting? Ting is cheap. Ting is actually going to T-Mobile. So it's T-Mobile. So what they do is what Ting does, and you can get a referral code from BraxMe, where I'd appreciate if you use a Ting referral code. The thing about Ting is that you only use it, you only pay for what you use, so you don't have to pay like 35 bucks a month for a secondary phone if you're only going to use it, a little bit. For example, if I'm only using it for 2FA, two-factor authentication, and I just need occasional texting, you can cut down the cost to 10 bucks. 10 bucks, and just use Wi-Fi. Turn off the data. 10 bucks. So you can't do that on the other plans, and that's why Ting is good. Best custom for what does that mean? I thought about getting a flip phone and taking battery out when not using. Yeah, although you can do that, it's just not practical. There's times when you really want to get some information and you got to get out there. John Leger made millions and now it's out of T-Mobile. John Leger was always in my broadcast, so I appreciated having him on my broadcast. He actually gave a phone away on my broadcast. T-Mobile Europe is fine, maybe one of the best. T-Mobile where I am is fine too. I've been. It's actually better than AT&T where I am. How about phone sleeve bags which block signals, or it's called a Faraday bag? I've been trying to get a good quality Faraday bag to sell in my store, and it's kind of hard to buy from China right now. But I actually, it's something we probably all should do. Is have Faraday bags when we're not using our phones. The thing though is, just turn it off. Turn it off. Would you please make complete privacy guide course? I can't do that. Just watch all my videos. Regarding Byte's VPN router use, can you use encrypted messaging apps like Signal over the VPN? Yes. Of course. If you use a phone, you can use Signal. Signal's only on the phone. So yes, I use Signal over the VPN. That doesn't make any difference. Running Lineage on phone and tablet. What is your profession? My profession? I'm a YouTuber. That's what I do 100% of the time. What was my prior profession, if you want to ask? Yes, I was a chief software architect for a long time, decades. So I working in designing and creating and programming enterprise systems. So that's what I did before. Okay, so chief software architect. That's what I did. So Bill Gates calls himself chief software architect. So I use this title. I call myself chief software architect. So I do what Bill Gates did. Andrew's back. Best custom ROM for privacy. Anything without gaps. For voice calls via Signal over Tor. Yeah. Kind of slow with Tor though. I don't know if Tor would work, but it should work. It's just kind of slow, and you don't need it. Well, you do need it for voice. Yeah, it's voice over IP. I am not Korean. Hold out for $1 billion contract with Spotify. Banking over Tor network, they probably won't let you. No, I'm not Korean. You keep asking that. Team up with Spotify. I suspect they're down to kill Apple and Google. Wasn't Spotify bought by Sirius XM? Did I hear that? Was it or did they buy Pandora? Was it Pandora they bought? Maybe it was Pandora. RSA versus ECC encryption on OpenVPN. What is better? they're not that different. Ours ECC, it's not that different. They're both called asymmetric. It's just how you come up with the factors. Uh, ECC was actually being pushed by the NSA for a while, and so people are actually wondering if ECC had had some hidden flaw that was going to be used by the NSA to go break encryption. So I don't know. I'm not, I I don't use EC. It's not. It's asymmetric encryption. Spotify bought Joe Rogan. They buy YouTube channels. Are there other YouTubers talking about privacy? Don't compare me to the hated one. I watch some of his videos and it's like, they're like baby level videos. Okay, don't compare me to that. I mean, he's been around a long time. So you guys have seen him, but my stuff is a different kind of level than what the hated one does. The one that's that is very serious stuff that I really like is the one from from Null Byte. Null Byte's good. Null Byte's good. I mean, I if I forget something, I actually go to Null Byte to see if I got it right. So yeah, Null Byte documents hacks very well. So it's very good at the basic level. It's kind of basic, but it's he does a very good job. And then for radio frequency hacking, the one that I really like is the Danish hacker. The Danish hacker. These guys are not privacy; they're cybersecurity. Privacy-wise, not really anyone that that does what I do. I'm unique. The stuff I do is not because the problem is you have to have a lot of knowledge to do what I do, because I don't just tell you that Zuckbook is zucked up. Well, I actually tell you specifically how they zuck you with MAC address tracking and whatever they do with EXIF data and all the little things that they actually do to the specific level, and that is what makes my channel unique, because I go through all that. This live is saved. Yes, disabling all Google apps won't do crap for privacy. Yeah, no, you can't disable apps on a phone that already has Google. The code for Wi-Fi scanning and all that is overlaid over the AOSP or Android open source programs, so you can't undo it. The only way to do it is if you try to redo it, it'll say security error. No, you can't do it. It's got to be flashed from the beginning without Google on it. And the reason that there's no Google stuff on AOSP is because the stuff that they put on AOSP are things that are non-proprietary. So Google doesn't want to expose their code, so they only put open source stuff on AOSP. Chris Titus is a great guy. He's been here on my channel as well. So and he's also on library with me. Do you think shutting off Bluetooth in iOS will actually stop Apple from spying? No. Zuck. No. You're like saying, can you beat the operating system? If they don't give you a way to do it, then no. Thanks. I'll check those guys out. Those guys, Fred, are more hacking types. But I recommend them. These are channels that, are chock full of data. I like channels that give you real data than just talk. If I'm just going to hear talk and, without any real depth to the discussion, then I don't like to watch that. So Null Byte is, factual. It shows you the hack, and it's documented, and it shows you how it works exactly. And, if you understand anything about hacking, then you look at it and say, yeah, that's right. Minix, I don't know who Minix is or what Minix is. You need this Zucker to decompile it. Like I said, let's say that they replaced the Wi-Fi scanning code with the Google Wi-Fi scanning code. You can't take it out because then the Wi-Fi won't work. because they actually it replaces something. It replaces a functionality. So you can't undo it because there's no way to bring the old one back. So that's the reason you can't undo. Once you buy a Google, let's say you get a Samsung. Well, you're stuck, because what are you going to do with that? By the way, some people have said, "Oh, I can I de-Google a Samsung phone?" And this is the kind of craziness that's why I don't do any Samsungs. So apparently, if you want to de-Google like a Samsung S9, okay, which you can buy for $300, and you said, "Okay, this is a newer phone, 2018. Can I de-Google this?" And then you try to de-Google it, and it says, "No, we only works on it. We can only de-Google. You can only load Lineage OS on the following submodels." Suck. You're gonna buy the wrong phone. So no, I don't recommend Samsung at all. I do not recommend Samsung at all for de-Googling. It's just you'll never get the right one. If you want to have your Samsung phone de-Googled, you have to have a very specific model. Not just saying, I have an S9. No, it's S9, dash SG, SM dash 900GF or whatever the exact model is. You have to actually have the exact model. It doesn't work on all. Will cryptocurrency apps and wallets work? Yes, it works. Will library works? Yes. Most things work. The only things that don't work are things that require you to purchase something from Google Play Store, or the few apps that require other services from Google, like Firebase. And 90% of the apps don't really go to Google. They use their own resources, except for location and notifications, and that's covered. What locks that code to the model? The compatibility with the chip. There's some chips that don't have, for example, on a Samsung Galaxy, Samsung S9, if you do not have the right model, you cannot unlock the bootloader. So they're selling phones with restrictions by carrier where you can't unlock the bootloader. Same with Pixels. You have that same issue as well. So you got to buy it unlocked. Is Manjaro working on some touch device based OS? Yes, it's working on a Pine phone. Barely, but it works on a Pine phone. Which are the brands that support de-Googling well? The brands that support de-Googling well would be Motorola G7, G7 Play, those two specific models. Nexus 5, Pixel, although you probably wouldn't want to use the Nexus 5, it's too old. So Pixel 1 works great. It still works great. That's it. OnePlus 1, OnePlus 6. OnePlus 6 is the newer one. Thank you, SBs. Thank you so much. Let's see. Samsung Galaxy Tab S2, which is the only Samsung that I'm talking about here. And I got to check the model. I worry about any Samsung. You cannot physically remove Bluetooth and Wi-Fi transceiver, it's impossible. You cannot remove that on an existing phone because they're system on a chip. They're not separate chips that you can just unsolder. You can't do that. You still haven't gotten it, King Sing? I mean, Zuck, you're not even that far away. It's crazy. Last time you got it in 10 days, and now what? It's going to take 3 weeks? I de-Googled the Samsung Tab S2, but does it work on all? Silent Dog. That's a question. Are there any submodels of a Samsung Tab S2? Probably not, because it's not a phone. The restriction often is with the bootloader, and that relates to the phone. Can I damage the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi circuit to prevent spying? You can't. It's not. It's integrated. In one chip. It's in one chip. It's not in multiple chips. It's in one chip. What are you gonna do? Use a electron microscope, open it up, and go kill something in there? Do you have the schematics for a chip? Can you open that up? Javon Sims, it is, but it's actually saying the same thing here. You cannot de-Google a Pixel 2 very well. I actually would stop at Pixel 3. I have a Pixel 3. I haven't de-Googled it. I haven't been successful. So Pixel is very solid. I love the Pixel. I'm gonna recommend that you guys use a Pixel. It's inexpensive and it's reliable as heck and solid. It's a solid phone. And they're older, but I'm getting the nicest ones I can find. I'm trying to get only the new Pixels, or Pixels in excellent condition. So I'm trying to limit my purchases of Pixels to excellent condition. I wonder how many phones it would take to guess and check. Pixel or XL? Yes. Pixel Standard or Pixel XL? I think they're both okay. Do you have an incognito address so I can send you some coins? Unfortunately, yes, I do. But incognito addresses are 1 hour only. You should know that. They only survive for 1 hour. So I have to go to Braxme and give you an address, and it only lasts for 1 hour. So it's kind of inconvenient, isn't it? Will you make a video talk about your advice for best practices to prevent Apple and Google from spying? I'm already telling you the general one. Let me just say this kind of to highlight the point here. The spying on the basic spying happens at the phone level. That's probably 90% of it. And then on all devices, it's IP address. So the phone is 90% of all the spying, and all devices are exposed by an IP address. So those are the two things you got to worry about. What does that mean when I say that? Well, it means that if you have a computer, you only worry about the IP address. If you have a phone, you have to worry about the IP address and the phone spying itself. Device fingerprinting, Wi-Fi scanning, and so on. So, in reality, if you analyze what I just said, what I'm saying is that 90% of your fears are really about the phone. Okay, this is a change in attitude and expectation even. The phone is very, very deadly now in the last few years, in the last 4 years. So the phone is very deadly. It used to be, the computer was the big threat, and the computer, the biggest threat is the IP address, and you can solve that with a VPN. But on a phone, there's just too many things going on. Plus, aside from the fact that I'm telling you about Wi-Fi scanning and device fingerprinting, then you have third-party things on here like government hacking of the SIM card, Stingray, and there's just too many things going on in here. Too many things going on. Plus OEM blobs, we don't know, hidden code. Maybe somebody can turn on the camera, do all that. We have no idea. There's some stuff on the phone that is kind of dangerous unless you have a Linux phone. Linux phones are going to be inherently safer because most of the device is open source. So there you go. I mean, the reality is that if you do some of the basic things that I talk about, 90% of all your risk will disappear. It's just the phone and IP address, and 90% of the risk disappeared. It's not 100%. There's email issues, there's app selection, and so on. There are going to be other dangers just from being on Facebook, for example. So in a general way, we got to start someplace. And what is the point What Linux phone do you recommend? There are only two right now. It's a Librem 5 and a Pine phone, and you're not going to get a Librem 5 yet. I ordered mine last summer. I still don't have it. From purchase to setup, how do you set up your mobile device for privacy? I'm at a place where I'm going to purchase a phone and change plans and start over. Yeah, you have to start with a de-Googled phone, clearly, with no gaps. You're not going to use an iOS phone. You're going to dump Apple. There's as much as you might want to love Apple, as much as they say they're for privacy, the fact of the matter is there is no zucking privacy with Apple. So if you're an Apple and you don't want to listen to me, there's nothing I can do. I mean, I told you 90% of the risk is on the phone choice. And if I were you, I'd leave my Apple at home. You can still enjoy your Apple phone at home. I don't know what the Fediverse network is. Thank you, David. I have a Pine phone. Is your microG install process for Mode G7 Play published somewhere? No, it does not. It's not published anywhere. No. But you can go to the microG site and install it yourself. Download whatever you need to download from microG. Should I purchase a flip phone for security purposes? I would say no. The Google phone is just fine. Because aside from the risk of Google and Apple on the phone, the other risk is the SIM card hacks, meaning the SS7 silent texting and all the dangers that can exist on a phone that from attacks, Stingray, all that happen on the modem. Well, a flip phone has a modem, so all of them have the same risks. So there's nothing special about the modem. All modems can be hacked, including from a flip phone. So if you have a phone, the only way to actually be safer is to remove the SIM card. If you use a SIM card, if you're on Verizon and Sprint without a SIM card, you're zucked. Does G7 support wireless microwaves? I don't know where the hell you would use that. So I can't answer you. YouTube will not let you type the term that describes the epidemic. It won't? David, it won't let you type the infection in? That's fine. So Pine phone is the go-to for the kill switch. The kill switch is not working perfectly on an iPhone, on a Pine phone yet. It's kind of tricky when you turn off the Wi-Fi. It never comes back. So you kind of have to. It's kind of a semi-permanent setting. So if you turn off the Wi-Fi, then it's going to take a lot of work to bring it back up. So there's still some ways to go before the Linux phones are actually completely usable. So I'm hoping it's like, I'm hoping we're weeks away. Weeks, not months. Whatever problem is on a Pine phone will exist on the Librem 5 because it's actually, both are kind of developing at the same pace here. Except that I have a Pine phone. Will you be able to connect your mobile hotspot via link extender mode and connect your devices to the VPN router? You can connect a VPN router to a hotspot with an Ethernet. You can connect it to an LTE modem, for example, as long as it has an Ethernet port. But I actually intend to just sell you the Pine phone software. You can buy your own Pine phone and just sell you routing software, and you just insert the SD card into the Pine phone, and there it is, and you're done. Okay, I'm going to, when the Pine phones are more available, then I will actually do that. And then you can use the Pine phone as a modem. A router. If a network nearby is called FBI van, should everyone immediately smash their phones in case of Stingray? No, I actually, a lot of people call their networks FBI vans. That's actually quite common. I've actually seen people actually do that. So it's very funny. Looking at blog posts from PineFun Community Edition will start shipping June 1st. Everyone is now using video calls. What app would you say is safe? None, Karen Campbell. Unfortunately, you cannot encrypt video. Okay, it has to do with codecs. Understand what video is. Let me just make that clear because I only have 10 minutes here. For Karen Campbell, a video is actually a series of photos. So when you take a video in 4K, you're actually taking 4K photos in a row, streaming it at 60 frames, 30 frames, or whatever frames per second, which is a lot of power that it has to use to do that. The way that they're able to make videos go smoothly is from codecs, coder, decoder. And what it does, it looks at the photos from one shot to the next and see if there's any difference. And if there is no difference, then they basically compress the areas that have changed, that have not changed, and only give you the portions that have changed. So the assumption is, and you can actually watch this in a live stream, that a video is slower on a live stream if you have, like, say, snowflakes, because it means there's nothing constant in the photo. But in my picture right now, I'm sending this in 4K, for example, live stream. But you see that most of the stuff around me is constant; it doesn't move. So the codec decoder, the codec coding decoding aspect of video, will only send the middle part of the video instead of sending 4K. And that is why video can occur on a computer in a fairly decent way, even without having to send individual photos at 60 frames per second, 60 photos per second, which is going to be impossible. So the way that it works is from the encoding, decoding. Now, if I had to encrypt that picture, I cannot spot the differences from a screen to see if any part of the video is moving or not. And if I can't do that, then and it has to be done fast. So the encoder decoder has to get the data raw to see that, oh, parts of the bits haven't changed and parts have changed. That's why you can't really do a good job of encrypting any kind of video. So video by nature is not encrypted. And, we need to get into much higher CPU and bandwidth before you can actually say we can encrypt video. So there's actually no way to do it right now that would make it functional. So, okay, so just to make it clear, it is not functional to decode video. For this reason, no video is actually encrypted, not even signal. Even if you use video on signal, it is not encrypted. Now, given that signal is a single server, if both of you are using signal servers and you trust signal, then it doesn't get seen by the outside world. That is the advantage of a signal, is you trust the guy in the middle. If you're going to use a Zoom, which is a Chinese server, then you're saying, well, you have to trust that Zoom will not do anything bad to your videos. So what I'm really trying to tell you is, if you're going to go talk to your girlfriend and use Zoom and then show your naked body on the internet through Zoom, thinking that, it's just two of us here, that it's going to be safe, then that's probably a stretch, and it's probably a pretty dumb move. You just have to understand that video is not encrypted. So when I talk to John McAfee on video, So we were talking on Skype. I understand that the government could have been listening and watching the Skype session, but it's public anyway, so it doesn't make any difference. Okay, does that explain stuff? So video cannot be encrypted. Same with it's kind of the same issue with voice. So voice over IP can be encrypted only if it comes from the same source, and it's encrypted primarily by HTTPS. So if you're sending it to one server, like let's say Signal, okay, I'll probably trust that more, but it doesn't mean it's end-to-end. It's not end-to-end encrypted, meaning Signal could still listen to it. So it depends on how you trust the guy in the middle. So that's why I do not do a lot of video, and maybe I should do a video about this to explain to you. Yeah, this is actually a good video topic. Okay, to explain to you why you can't really trust any video or audio because you can't really do a good job of encrypting it. It's really not currently possible to do it well because you got to trust the man in the middle. What about CCTV? Can the recording be encrypted on a cloud server? What does that mean? Obviously, the CCTV is not going to be encrypted on the way to the cloud server. So yes, you can do HTTPS, send it to the cloud server, which is fine. So I'm not sure, but that's the same with anything. I mean, Zoom could, in theory, keep their stuff in an encrypted server, so that only Zoom can see it. So obviously, when you encrypt it on the server, only the owner of the server can see it, but the owner of the server can still see it. Okay, Jason reviews tech. Okay, I will make that my next video next Thursday. Explain to you the mechanics of that. I'll explain that to you I'll research it and show you exactly what I'm talking about. What I tried to explain briefly here, so you can see that's why you cannot trust audio and video. That's a very good topic, by the way. I always get asked that. Bitium, Tough Mobile. Bitium used to make computers. Now they're making mobile. I don't know what that's supposed to do. What makes it special? If it's the Google with no gaps, it's probably fine. No, King Singh, I would not. How do you feel about leaving our iPhone? David, I leave my iPhone at home, but using flip phones and things it's just too inconvenient for very little benefit. I'd rather just have a de-Googled phone. I mean, I can do everything here. You don't have to, disconnect from reality. You can use the Nexus 5, which running Ubuntu Touch. It's very, very functional. You can, if you need to use the internet, you can. If you don't use the internet much, it's fine too. So, Nexus 5 running Ubuntu Touch is still a great solution. Later on, I want to convert that to PinePhone running Ubuntu Touch. Signal Messenger new update back some data to the cloud is still best for. I don't know. Haven't really researched it because until they remove the phone number thing, which they are, we'll have to see. I use Signal with people I know. If I know someone and someone knows my phone number already, like my family, then Signal is fine. So I use Signal with family, and I think it's good to use with family. Do I use it with people I don't know? No, not so far. I'd rather use BraxMe. BraxMe is best for people you don't know because there's no identity attached to it. There's no IP address, nothing. You don't even need a VPN to use BraxMe. Graphene OS is a variant. It's an AOSP variant that the guy from Graphene did. So it's AOSP. Graphene is AOSP. No, it's a margarita. Musica. Uh, the cops got to his CCTV recordings. Oh yeah, because you used Ring. So you want to share your CCTV recordings? Zucking use Ring. Okay, you want to lose your privacy? Use Zucking Ring. Okay, that's why I made my own video camera. I made my own. I don't have one constructed right here, but I sell my own camera system, which has no connection to the internet. So, and it's wired. It's not Wi-Fi. Ring is Wi-Fi. I can hack that. So, if I were you, I would only use a wired camera and not accessible from the internet, and no zucking port forwarding or anything like that. No zucking Ring. Crazy stuff. Graphene stops support as soon as Google drops support for a pixel. That's correct. The graphene guy is a little bit hardcore with that, but in general, we take the same approaches. Very, very similar. I pretty much agree with, and do the same thing that he does. Probably 90% agreement. So, yeah, graphene's fine. If you want to use graphene. If you don't want to use my stuff and you want to install your own graphene, you can do that. Of course, Wi-Fi is not secure. The other thing is I have an app to do that. You can download it from my GitHub. You can block Ring. Get on the network and block Ring. So I can actually just probe, any Wi-Fi's broadcasting with the name Ring on it, and then, or I can just check for MAC addresses of Ring devices because they have a common MAC address range. So find the Ring device and zucking block it, and then you actually shut down the camera. So stupid. So, and people are like, this is the commercialization of stuff. It's like a phone. This Ring stuff, you just, put it on your door with no wiring, and everything is so simple and it works, and it actually is very insecure. So don't zucking use Ring. Invest in something more serious. Wire it. I have PoE wiring, power over Ethernet. No Wi-Fi, direct to the router, no internet. That way you get to be safer. Oh, I went past my time here. So I guess I have to end this because I don't want to go past an hour and a half, and I did. So anyway, guys, I will talk about the safety of videos and audio in next week's video. That is an excellent topic. I'm going to start researching it immediately, and try to think about how to do the graphics for that so I can explain it in a clear way. Okay, so I got myself a new camera too, so maybe I can put that to use. So thank you, Scent Sound. Thank you, Charles Miller. Thank you, Karen Campbell. Thank you, King Singh, Mark, David, Mama Kids, and see you next week in a video. And thank you again for making my current video #1. It's been fantastic. Actually, made over $300 this month from YouTube. $300. Enough to live on. Right? Thank you very much. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.